My name is Ashley Parker, but I go by my last name, so please just call me Parker. And I'm the Health and Wellbeing Specialist in Risk Services. I run programs and workshops for the faculty and staff health and wellbeing program. I'm also a culinary nutritionist, a health coach, and I worked in the restaurant industry for over 10 years. And I know this topic is my jam, but I know that meal planning can be tedious at times and can feel like a chore. So today we're going to talk about a variety of ways to hopefully make it easier for you. So before we get started, I'd like us to get centered and start thinking about what are the special foods or meals that get you really excited about spring. So since this is a meal planning workshop, think about what that dish is. What can you make to welcome in the season? So coming here today, I'd like to recognize that every one of us has a unique relationship with food. You might be someone who gets really excited about food and uses cooking to express your creativity. On the other hand, maybe you eat because you just need to do that to survive, but would much rather spend a minimal amount of time getting all of your meals situated. So, believe it or not, I used to be in the later camp. If it wasn't fast, then I just really couldn't be bothered with it. But when I started working with food, holidays started to be just like a really abstract way to mark the year because I was always working. But what did change were the seasonal fruits and vegetables that would show up in our special dishes. So it actually is a really nice way to appreciate the changing of the seasons. I I do wait all year now for rhubarb to come in so I can make a bunch of jam, and also for asparagus because it has so much more flavor than the rest of the year. Green beans are also extra sweet as well. And that reminds me of snack time at my grandparents' house. So, why is seasonal eating so beneficial? If you look closely, you might notice that produce that's in season kind of just looks better than at any other time of the year. Think about the season that you thrive in. If you're a winter person, then those cooler temperatures are going to keep you really nicely energized and your best self. If you like Meyer lemons or Cara oranges, then you know exactly what I mean. This can be because the most optimal environmental conditions help to produce peak flavor and often peak nutrition. In-season produce also has the luxury of being picked when it's ripe, so they can be richer in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and polyphenols. And polyphenols are those bioactive chemicals that plants produce that show to provide us additional health benefits. Food that's in season also tends to be more environmentally friendly. They don't have to travel thousands of miles like when we get produce from South America during our off seasons. So those fewer food miles also means that there's fewer greenhouse gas emissions from transportation, but also from cold storage. I know that UC Santa Cruz is such a leader in environmental sustainability too. So that we can especially recognize the impact that all of this makes. Eating in season also supports the local economy. These foods are grown closer to us, and if you would even like to support the farms directly, you can sign up for things like a CSA subscription box, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and the farms hand select the best fruits and vegetables that are currently ripe and ready and send it to you. You can also shop at farmers markets, and Santa Cruz neighbors so much farmland. The flavor that we get from those local foods are just outstanding. Even UC Santa Cruz has farmland and we grow things too. So if you're on campus, there's a produce pop-up. You can find that in Corey Plaza on Wednesdays, or on Fridays, it's on Science Hill in front of the Science and Engineering Library. So we are pretty blessed to have so many opportunities for such beautiful, high quality food. Food that's in season is also in so much abundance, so it's usually more affordable too. And grocery prices are so crazy these days. I think that we can take every chance we get to save some money. So how do you figure out exactly like what is in season? If you do a quick Google search, the seasonal produce guide from the USDA pops up. That's on the left-hand side. So these foods are generally available during the spring season, but it can also vary by region. And also, if you'd like to drop in the chat what your favorite spring foods are, I'd love to see what everyone is into. Also, if you go to farmers markets, if you go to their websites, they often highlight the best in-season produce options. Like the Santa Cruz farmers markets have asparagus, greens, leeks, and fennel. The seasonal produce guide on the bottom right is available as an app to be downloaded. So you can search for what's in season by state, you can look by month, and you can even look by the particular item. So knowing what's in season can be so important because sometimes we can just get like really weird things in the grocery stores. Like for instance, I saw watermelon a couple weeks ago and thought, well, why not? It's here. Let's see what this is about. And I'm so intrigued. So I took it home. The sticker is from really far away. And what do you know, when I cracked it open, it was kind of leaning towards white and a little bit watery. And that kind of just makes sense. So knowing what's available and in season can help to just make your weekly menu so much more flavorful. Ooh, we got some responses. We like mushrooms and strawberries, absolutely. Lots of strawberries and stone fruits. We have those coming in, apricots, and during the summertime, we're going to get peaches. I'm so excited for that too. Thanks, everyone, for sharing. So, why should we meal plan? First of all, eating out is really costly and it adds up so quickly, especially these days. And sometimes we can even possibly make food for ourselves in the same amount of time that it takes to order out, and sometimes maybe even faster. On top of saving money and saving time, we're also not deciding what to eat on just a whim. And maybe you have experienced that if you ever had that conversation, the what do you want to eat for dinner, honey, sort of conversation. So figuring out ahead of time kind of just eliminates that and also can help to reduce decision fatigue. We go through so many things on a day-to-day basis. Just take one thing off your plate. Finally, meal planning can help you be in more alignment with your health goals because you're having more control over what's going into your food. And here's a secret that you maybe not know about restaurants and even at markets where you can get pre-made ready food. But their goal is to make something really tasty and yummy to get you to come back. So chances are that there is possibly more fat or salt than you would typically use at home. So now, as a process, let's talk a little bit about how meal planning unfolds. The key to keep in mind is that meal planning is a process. I personally like to spread it out over a few days because that just makes it a little bit more manageable for me. So, for example, I on a Friday will take 5 to 10 minutes to check what's around, what's in the pantry, what's in the fridge or freezer, fridge and freezer. And then you can make a plan for what's cooking and write your shopping list. On Saturday or Sunday, maybe do your shopping. And when you have your groceries, you can take some time that same day to do your prep, or maybe the next day, usually a Sunday or Monday. And while you're thinking up your menu, it is important to consider the events that are happening in the week. So, for instance, if you have a really busy end of the week, your kids have games, you're meeting up with friends, with family, it's probably not going to help to plan on cooking for those days too. And also, sometimes life just comes up, so you need something on the table that's ready to go. And for those occasions, it's good to keep some backup meals ready that can either stay in the freezer or while you're cooking during the week or early in the week, make some extra to save for later. But also sometimes we just have to pick up something on the way home, and that's totally fine. It's a great opportunity to practice the My Plate method and see what sides you can throw in to increase the balance of the meal. So now, getting everything together and actually doing our meal prep. It can be a pretty intimidating task, but if there's anything that I've learned in kitchens is that the first few times you do something, it's going to take a little bit of time to get through the process. You are getting acquainted to it, but the more you practice, you'll start looking for more ways to be a little bit more efficient and you'll gradually become faster. So, to start with this whole process, my number one tip is to make a to-do list. Some of you might be able to keep your list in your head. You know what needs to be done, but there really is nothing like writing it all down and crossing off the items as you go. It's so satisfying. You also don't have to keep that mental list in your head, so it frees your mind up to wander and do other things. So if you have any tips that you would like to share about meal prepping or anything time saving, go ahead and share that too. I think we can appreciate all the help that we can get. The next thing to think about is mise en place. So that's a French term. It means everything in its place. And the idea is that before you start prepping, before you start cooking, you're gathering everything you need. You have your cutting board, you have your knives, you have your towels, all of your ingredients, all of your tools, the pots and pans that you might be using. Everything is out and ready, and that saves you time from having to go and shuffle through your cabinets and your drawers trying to find something in the middle of it. So when you do get to cooking, on your list to prep, you're probably going to have grains, proteins, vegetables that you all need to take care of, and maybe even some things like overnight oats for breakfast options, just whatever tasks you need to do to make cooking during the weekday easier. So if you have them, it's a great time to use as many kitchen appliances as possible in your prep. So starting with steaming your whole grains on the stove or in a rice cooker. Maybe you're roasting vegetables and baking some protein, and then you can just grab those as you need them for meals throughout the week. It's a good time to turn on your oven and make sure it's preheated when all of those are prepared. And while you have your first set of items going, they're cooking in like these hands-off sort of methods. You're going to pre-wash and chop your vegetables, and that way you can use them right away or later on in the week. I I distinctly remember days in the past and also currently where during the week, if I have to get my hands wet to wash a vegetable, that's just a little bit enough of a barrier for me to overlook adding a vegetable. So doing these really quick, easy things at the beginning of the week really sets you up for success. And if they're ready to go, you're much more likely to use them. If you have little ones, this can be especially helpful to wash all of your fruit and have it ready to grab and go, because then you don't need to stop what you're doing and help them out. They can just grab it and they are ready. I will take a moment to plead my cause for breaking out your blender or your food processor. I know that these can be a little bit annoying to to use to clean, but they can really save a lot of time. And I'm speaking from experience. I have been that stubborn person who would say, I'll just do it by hand, to avoid washing that. But instead of minutes, it takes many, many minutes and a lot of effort to do whatever recipe I'm trying to accomplish. And at the end of that, it would have been just so much easier to wash the food processor. The whole idea is that we're trying to make everything streamlined and as easy as possible. But one tip for washing those is when you rinse everything out, fill up the blender or the food processor with water about halfway and put in a little drop of soap and run the machine for a couple seconds. It pretty much cleans itself and minimizes the effort that we need to take with that. Next, when your items are ready to go, label them with their names and the dates that they're prepped. So you know what it is. It's very easy to see. And you know exactly when it went into the fridge. So you'll need a roll of masking tape and a Sharpie, and you'll just stick them to whatever containers you are storing your things in, and you don't really have to worry. The next tip I have is to also help decrease food waste as well, in addition to using the labels. It takes a little bit of organizing, but if you FIFO your food, it will let you know exactly what to use first. FIFO is a restaurant term. It means first in, first out. So all of the items that when you are putting in new items, all of the items that are already in the fridge get moved to the front because they went in first. They need to be used first, and they'll spoil sooner. What you prep now and you've made, it would be the last items that you've made, they go into the back so that you use everything in the order that it had gone in the fridge, and you don't lose any old takeout, some of those last few veggies, and you are less likely to produce food waste. So when you are in the kitchen and you're getting started, of course, write your to-do list. You'll know everything that's going to happen, and you don't need to keep that running list in your mind, cluttering things, because it can cause unnecessary mental fatigue. But you will also need to decide what to start cooking first, and that's going to be whatever cooks the longest. So for grains, maybe you're breaking out a rice cooker or heating water to boil pasta. If you have some marinated chicken, preheat the oven so you can get that going. And for those items that you are baking and you are roasting that go into your oven, think about Thanksgiving time. Maybe you have done this where you've promised to bring sweet potatoes and pie, but it took a really long time because they both cook at different temperatures. So if you have items that cook at the same temperature, you can put them into the oven at the same time. And you can even put them in the oven on the same sheet, but you just make sure that you cut everything so it finishes cooking together. And in restaurants, we frequently use parchment paper or like that like baking paper to lay down on the pan, and it makes cleaning those up a little bit easier too. Next on your list, you're probably going to do some cutting or some chopping. So it's good to be organized about how to go about that too. In commercial spaces, a new life or a new knife and a new cutting board or freshly washed ones are used for every different item. I know for home cooks that's not really realistic, but that's what we do in a restaurant for food safety reasons. But at home, we're probably just cutting everything one after the other. So make sure your vegetables are clean, obviously. But if you are chopping something that you'll wash later, like lettuce or kale, chop that last so you don't have to worry about getting your cutting board cleaned off in between things. If you do cut garlic though, uh, just know that that flavor is going to get on whatever you are cutting next. And of course, use a new clean cutting board for handling raw meat. Again, if you have any tips, you can totally enter them into the chat or share them at the end. And let's talk a little bit about some time-saving hacks. So the idea of doing that 1 to 2 hours of prep at the beginning of the week is so important to the process because that couple of hours really just helps to streamline what you need to do during the week. And contrary to popular belief, meal prepping doesn't mean that you have to plan all of your meals. You have to get everything cooked on the weekend and packaged up all into their containers so that every meal you just need to grab it and then it's ready to go. You can do that, absolutely. But you also can go about it a different way. So like we mentioned earlier, having your vegetables ready, you can just grab them and throw them into your meal. Also, if you haven't the time to think of specific dishes, having those ready-made options like that can let you throw things together if you're a little bit more of an improv cook. Also, plan for some leftovers, and you can always store those in the freezer for an easy meal later on. If you are doing grains, you can also save those to save you some time, either later on in the week or if it's a couple weeks down the line. If you make smoothies too, a really good hack is to make little packets of everything that you throw in for one serving size so that when it does come time for you to make your smoothie, you can just grab it and then everything's all ready to go. And my last tip is to definitely lean on convenient options. Yes, convenient items. Go ahead and use convenient items. I know technically they're processed, but if you have a bag of pre-washed salad, or washed and chopped broccoli. Those are also convenient and processed items, but they save a lot of time. They add a lot of nutrition and they're super easy. So I also hear sometimes that um, that some folks think that canned fruits and vegetables or frozen fruits and vegetables don't really count as servings of fruits and vegetables, and that's really not the case. So some good news on that. They can be also a big time saver, of course, but it could also be the reason why you get some extra nutrition into a meal. Canned foods can be really quick, really easy, and you can add vegetables that are already cooked. And compared to fresh tomatoes, so we love our fresh produce, but comparing fresh tomatoes to canned or processed tomato products like pasta sauce, those processed items have more bioavailable lycopene, which is an antioxidant that you wouldn't quite get the same amounts if you're eating just fresh tomatoes. So uh, another benefit in that way too. Frozen produce is also typically harvested at their peak level of ripeness and flash frozen very shortly after. So you kind of skip that whole length of time where you have these degrading nutrients since it got picked off the vine. So it also retains really high nutrition and can be possibly higher in nutrition than those same fresh options, for example, if it's like the middle of winter. There's also microwave ready grains in a packet. So you can even find whole grain options like brown rice and quinoa, and they're microwave ready. If you are someone who can just steam rice or steam quinoa on the stovetop, I am in such awe of you. I have to use a rice cooker or one of those microwave ready packs. Otherwise, I wouldn't have quinoa. I can't do it. Um, of course, you can also find those ready to heat whole dishes as well, and then just add whatever sides you need to add a little bit more balance. When we have fruits and vegetables that are in season, they are in so much abundance, and sometimes there are just huge bunches that are being sold together. So you can have just a very large amount of something. And have you ever had that situation where you take it home and you're like, oh, this is great, but then after a couple days, you still have a lot and you're wondering, what am I going to do with this? I don't know if I can finish this. My family's kind of bored of it. So there are many ways that you can repurpose those items so that they stay fresh and exciting. For example, if you have a bunch of spinach, you can throw it in smoothies or in salads, saute it with garlic, throw it in soup, make an omelet. You can freeze more for later or make a pesto. And like some books mentioned earlier, there are so many ripe strawberries. They're in stores now. They're super delicious, but they do kind of have a shorter shelf life. So here's a quick video on different ways that you can extend the lives of your in-season fruit.
When spring gives you strawberries, you have to use them in as many ways as possible before they go bad. So we're going to make a beautiful red strawberry sauce. Give your strawberries a quick chop and add a splash of water, then cook over medium heat and stir occasionally. If you want the sauce smooth, you can use a spatula to help break down the fruit. Strawberries get their color from compounds called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, and have been associated with protection against chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, and Alzheimer's. Okay, now let's make some strawberry milk. Use whatever milk you prefer. You can serve it over ice for a nice drink, or you can use it as a base for overnight oats. Leave it to chill overnight, and in the morning, you have a breakfast full of whole grains. You can add even more nutrition by topping with fresh strawberries for vitamin C and walnuts for omega-3s. My favorite thing to do with this is make a fruity, minty, sparkling water. Mint helps to aid with digestion, and making your own springtime sparkling water is the perfect way to celebrate the season.
So there's a few ideas to get you going. That sparkling water truly is my favorite. Now you have plenty of information, a lot of tips and tricks to get started, but you don't all of a sudden have to do the most. So don't think that you have to plan everything to a T. You can definitely make it a little bit more approachable, take it with smaller steps, and the smaller changes that you make consistently do show pretty lasting results, much more than trying to do too much. And then all of a sudden, it's a little bit unmanageable. So to make it more approachable, you might just pick just one meal or one area, maybe decide what snacks you're going to make. When you plan your snacks in advance, you'll also be more likely to eat them and eat healthier because you already have your veggie sticks and hummus ready to go. And even if you do end up reaching for a salty or a sweet snack, you have available those healthier options to add to it. And so now you have something high in fiber and nutritious to add on the side. And making a choice like that to plan healthy snacks that you have ready for the week can have rippling effects in the rest of your life too. So it can make it a little bit easier to make those health conscious decisions throughout the week. You can also, again, plan for just one meal. Maybe that one meal is also consistent pretty much from day to day, like breakfast. So you can do something like make overnight oats, but also chia seed pudding, whole wheat breakfast sandwich. And if that feels a little bit stagnant, you can always switch up the toppings and it feels fresh. If you need a little bit more variety, you can pick just 2 or 3 dishes, for example, dinner, and then rotate through those throughout the week. And you have a little bit more variety, but you don't spend just an excess amount of time trying to think up something new for every day of the week. So if you are a salad person, I have a really easy seasonal salad example for you. I'm I'm not really a salad person per se, but a seasonal salad, especially during the spring, full of a bunch of herbs, is a really delicious option, even if salad's like not your number one thing. So here's how to do that.
Spinach is a nutritional powerhouse, and we're going to use the vitamin C in fresh strawberries to unlock the plant based iron for better body absorption. I like to use a slightly wet kitchen towel underneath my cutting board to stop it from slipping. We'll start by making a quick pickle, but instead of boiling water and vinegar on the stove, I like to use the microwave and heat everything up until it's just a little steamy so everything gets gently cooked and it's ready to use. The acetic acid in vinegar has been shown to help slow down digestion and help control blood sugar. Making a salad dressing is super easy. I'm making marks on one of my jars because I can reuse it the next time I need to make dressing, and all the measurements are already there. The general ratio for a vinaigrette is 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. And this is a great way to use up all of those random vinegars you have in your pantry. And really make this dressing your own. Add some spices or aromatics like onion and garlic. Shallots and spring onions are high in quercetin, a strong antioxidant that is anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, anti-cancer, and immune supporting, all on top of being very protective against chronic disease. Okay, so this next part is not a part of the recipe, but if you want to make a mindful moment with your food, this is a great way to do it. Arranging your salad can really help with grounding and also invite gratitude. But you can also just be sure that every bite is going to be the best bite by layering all of your toppings evenly. Plus, pretty food just automatically tastes better.
And when I say arranging food, that doesn't mean you have to play everything like a Michelin star restaurant. Getting it a little bit cute can just heighten that experience of flavor. On those Sundays, and you want to try something new, how do you find recipes? The first thing is to be inspired. What are the dishes that you ate traveling abroad that were just so delicious and blew your mind? What maybe was the meal that made you do a happy dance, or the childhood dish that you lost the recipe to, but you really have been meaning to recreate. There are so many places that you can find recipes. It really just depends on the media method that you prefer. Obviously, there's cookbooks from restaurants, from chefs, from bloggers, and just so many specialty topics in very niche culinary topic areas. My favorite cookbook is a Tim Burton themed cookbook, so you can really find cookbooks on absolutely anything. But collecting cookbooks, while not required, does get expensive really fast if that's what you enjoy. So you can also use this as an opportunity to use your local library, and then you can check out cookbooks for free. There are, of course, many food magazines, and their websites can be really extensive, so you can poke around those for inspiration. Food TV channels, and also blogs. If you are a food enthusiast, there's also podcasts where you may not get a recipe on that every time you listen to an episode, but it's fun. You get a lot of ideas. And when you do have your recipes in line, actually, I failed to mention this, but you can defer to friends and family. Maybe you just don't truly know what you want to make next, and you can always open that conversation. What have you been making? And it can give you the ideas, give you the inspiration, and you might learn something new. And now, when you do have those ideas, sometimes there are a few things that you would rather change up to increase like the healthiness and get it more aligned with your goals. And some examples may be reducing the salt and added sugar, changing out the butter for olive oil so you get that lower saturated fat. But swaps like this don't go one to one. So the first recipe that you try that is more like a test recipe, and hopefully it turns out good. But I'll send a resource in, yeah, a link in the resources later that has a little bit more information and some ideas to go about that. But also, maybe you're being more health conscious, and so changing any refined carbs, white pasta, white bread with whole grain options, and changing out the regular flour for like a whole wheat flour, can help you to boost the fiber, boost the antioxidants. And also maybe you want to try a recipe, but it's deep fried. Can also just change up that cooking process. There's the air fryer. You can roast it, bake it, maybe grill it. It does take a little bit of finessing, especially if you use like an air fryer. I know it doesn't always turn out the same, but it can help protect your heart just a little bit more. So I did talk a lot about snacks and making balanced snacks, so we'll just dive a little bit deeper into that. I myself do like a tasty treat in the afternoon too. And if my lunch was particularly small, I can get really, really hungry by the afternoon slash end of the day. So if I don't have anything on hand, I'm just going to reach for whatever is easiest. And that can be anything from like a bag of chips to like some candy. And while doing that once in a while is totally fine. For me, that's not something that I can enjoy doing every day because I can feel it. But if you have some snacks on hand, that are easy to reach for in your bag or on your desk, they can save the day. And like I mentioned, thinking of snacks in a way of balance, much like the mind plate, even though we're not setting up a plate for a full meal, having that protein, those complex carbs, and healthy fats all together will help to keep you fuller for longer. And all of those components are important. Even the healthy fat will help your body absorb the fat-based vitamins easier. So all of those components really work together. So the idea is that you pick one from every column, but you might notice that they can cross over too. So beans and legumes and chickpeas provide protein, but also if you have chickpeas and hummus, it's a healthy fat as well. And then you can just top it off with some seeded crackers and you're good to go, or an apple. Yeah, so pick something from every column. And when you eat in a balanced way like that, you help to control hunger. It also helps to control blood sugar and give you that energy that you need until you're ready to go home and eat dinner. Especially if you have a fridge space in your office or the space that you're in, just bringing something like a container of carrots or some hummus to keep in the corner over there can be a really great clutch to just grab whenever you're feeling snacky. And of course, if you are reaching for those chips, that candy, having that available to add on the side just automatically boosts the nutrition that you're having in that meal or snack.